2025 will be a pivotal year for the global shipping industry. All eyes will be on the International Maritime Organization's spring meeting, in which key aspects of its greenhouse gas reduction strategy are expected to be adopted.
So the most important policy is absolutely the midterm measures that are being negotiated at the International Maritime Organization. These measures are going to create incentives for the adoption of these new fuels, and the important thing from our perspective is that they accelerate the transition as much as possible.
2025 is going to be an extremely important date for this industry transition because of all the potential regulatory frameworks that could emerge. And I think the most important thing is that there is a level of political consensus that drives real change in the transition.
The decisions made by the IMO's Marine Environment Protection Committee will have far-reaching consequences, and industry leaders have some clear expectations going into the debates.
I think the key thing for the industry is to have clarity. And it's extremely important because there's so many member nations that are going to come together and put up these proposals. There's going to be a lot of debate. And where we don't want to be is after all this debate, there's a lot of gray zones where people are expected to interpret in their own ways.
I'm hoping that discussions at the IMO will result in a framework that gives some certainty to the sector and that provides some support for the introduction of new green fuels.
There is growing consensus that the IMO must implement a strong emissions pricing mechanism to incentivize decarbonization.
To get zero-emission fuels is very simple. We need a global tax on CO2 and greenhouse gas emissions. Biggest issue we have today for green fuels is the price. So fossil fuels are too cheap, green fuels are too expensive. So we need to bridge the gap. There's two ways to do it. You have to tax fossil fuels, and of course the green fuels need to become less expensive thanks to the technology and efficiency of new technologies. The work at MEPC is difficult work because it's always finding a compromise, but I think this time we're very, very hopeful that MEPC 83 will deliver on the promise to finally implement a global CO2 tax for shipping.
Some form of levy has to be there in the mix to accelerate decarbonization.
I don't think actually there is much debate about the relevance of a price on carbon. It's really a question of how to implement it and at what level at this point.
Ideally, we need a combination of different mechanisms, one that penalizes the use of fossil fuels and one that supports the use of green fuels. And if we can have that combination of measures in place, then we really stand an excellent chance of seeing a rapid uptake of new green fuels in shipping.
According to IMO Secretary General Arsenio Dominguez, the agency will provide the clarity needed to reach net zero emissions.
IMO and all its member states continue to be very committed to the goals that were established when we adopted the GHG 2023 strategy. We continue to be on track to make the required decisions, starting with the approval of the technical and economic measures in April, and then moving to the adoption towards the end of the year, in the autumn. And that will set the clear signal that we also remain on target to meet not just the goal for 2030, but actually the final goal of decarbonizing by or around 2050.